Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Tell Me Yours, a storytelling podcast with me, your host, Trey Everett. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tell Me Yours. I'm your host, Trey. Today on the pod, I have a wonderful story from a really incredible New York-based indie artist. Please, without further ado, welcome to the pod, Socha. In particular, it can be like a pretty brutal place to land. So, like, how are you kind of navigating that weirdness?
Honestly, I will say I think New York has been pretty good to me.
Cool.
And maybe I don't know, in that, like, and I had a friend up here who was like my best friend from college, and we both do music. So that has been like a lifesaver, I think. But
Yeah, for sure.
I do feel like I've made, I do feel like I've made more connections, though, really like easier than I had even growing up and living in Austin my whole life. So like, I don't imagine leaving anytime soon. Like I think I've kind of just dove in a different way and tried to be a little bit more open and do scarier things than I have in the past, which I think also is adding to the weirdness right now. Like there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. I love that. I mean, yeah, like I think what you're describing feeling right now is very, I mean, in my opinion, it's very normal to feel that way.
Right.
And it'll settle. Like if there's anything, and you probably like have an understanding of this as well, but like if there's anything that we can rely on, it's that everything changes all the time. And so as long as you just kind of approach things with that mindset, like everything typically tends to work out how it's supposed to.
Yeah, it like I always think of it like it unfolds. Like I don't know if I'm like planned destiny for me, but it does unfold.
Yeah,
that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, because I definitely like I people are like everything happens for a reason, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think sometimes shitty things just happen because the world is chaos and nothing matters. But like you said, like everything, I love that. It unfolds. It's going. What is going to happen is going to happen, and so I can either like become a victim of that, or I can choose to really embrace that. And if that means that everything changes, then we'll see where I land. I love that. I like that a lot. Well, that's cool. That's cool that you had like an artist friend who you could like spend time with and kind of get acclimated with there. Do they do like a similar style of music? I'm such a fan of your music, by the way. You're so good.
Oh,
like
thank you.
You're so good. Yeah. Do they have like a similar style, or are they kind of like in a different space?
She's more like she's done really soulful music, and then more recently is like pivoting to more like folky pop, very inspired by like Joni Mitchell, and like I think she sounds a lot like Leanne LaHavas.
Yeah. You nailed it.
Yeah. I was like, is there an extra S in there? But so but she's been great, and she's very I'm a little bit more introverted. I'm a lot more introverted than her, so it's been nice because she does know a lot of people, so I'm like meeting people through her too.
I love that. Are you have you been able to perform much since you got to New York, or do you focus more on like the writing part?
Well, I have been, so I've been working on an album, but speaking of this friend, her name's Rachel Rose. That's her artist name.
Cool.
And she and I are actually playing at a venue called Baby's All Right on August 3rd, which is like a pretty big venue. I'm really excited. So I've done one other show, and then this one will be like,
that's awesome.
Honestly,
that's really cool.
Like we're trying to sell this baby out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. That's really cool. When you do perform, do you like what's your setup like? Do you perform solo? Do you have backing tracks and by yourself, or do you have like a full band? How do you kind of outfit that?
So it's a new setup for me. Like I've started like with this project, I've been producing and writing and doing it all like myself at home, which is new.
Cool. Yeah.
And so it's been cool to like believe that I can learn this skill and improve. That's been like a new thing for me, if that makes sense. But
absolutely, I love that.
And so I'm using Yeah. Sorry, I think there's a little delay, which
That's
is
all right.
why
That's
if
all
I'm
right. Yeah,
like
it's okay.
reacting like but for this show, I'm doing backing tracks, and I have a keyboardist and a drummer and two dancers, and that's all new. So we'll see. I
That's
feel good
cool.
about it, but
Yeah, that's
it's
really,
all
really cool.
set up.
I love that. I play in a folk band, and we were like a full on five piece, like electric guitars, banjo, full drum kit, and then we right before the pandemic we like downsized to now there's just three of us, and we like completely overhauled like our orchestrations. So now it's literally I play a floor tom instead of a full drum kit, and then like our singer plays an acoustic guitar, and then we have a banjo player, and like we had to really figure out like this is a completely different sound, but it's all the same song, so like we have to make this work. And
Mm,
we're having like the most fun live we've ever had, just because it feels so much more intimate and it feels so much more like us.
yeah.
So that's cool. I'm excited for you to like play around with a new setup. It's like it's always like weird and awkward and uncomfortable at first, but then like as soon as you feel comfortable, you feel really fucking comfortable. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure. And I can imagine too with like a smaller setup like that, you have more, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like you have more flexibility too, and maybe you can like kind of
Absolutely.
take space and like y'all three can have like a very like the energy is very focused and
Yeah,
y'all can be like
a hundred
like,
percent. And I think
yeah.
for someone like you, kind of similarly, like when you have like a smaller or even just a new setup, it's a brand new playground. Like you get to explore so many more things as an artist that you maybe wouldn't have gotten to explore previously. And so I think that's really exciting. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. And
Yeah.
it's very like I did one show in March and it was just me and my backing tracks and a loop pedal and I was like run, like trying to do it all at the same time. And so it's nice to be like, I'm gonna have a drummer that's gonna help me like count in and like I can rely on somebody for that aspect. And then like instead of having to like write all of everything, I have a keyboardist who adds some really cool shit on, so it's
Totally.
nice to rely on it. Yeah.
I love that.
So
Um, you're the greatest. This is already so great. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited to chat with you. Like I said, like I think I came across you on either TikTok or Instagram. I came across you and I just like started listening to music and I was like, this fucking artist is so good. I have to chat with her. So thanks for doing this. I'm excited to connect.
yes, me too.
All that is to say is you are gonna tell me a story slash maybe multiple small stories today. You're gonna tell me either one or many. It's gonna be great.
Yeah. I once I got over the initial panic
I love
of
it.
picking one story, I'm like perfectionistic about it. And I'm like, there has to be some kind of deeper thing or something. So
I always tell people this is like the lowest stakes podcast you'll ever do. There are no rules. It's great.
yeah, I appreciate that. I maybe this is just my version of what you just said. Yeah. Um, but yeah, do you want me to just like dive in?
The floor is yours. I'm all ears.
Okay. Sweet. Well, sorry. Okay. I'm ready.
I love it.
So I wanted to kind of share like a collection of like little moments that kind of piece together this like learning that I have recently been thinking a lot about.
Okay.
And it starts way back. We're in like middle school,
Perfect.
where
Perfect.
all the amazing things in life happen. But
Especially, yeah, yeah, love it.
yeah. And so I like grew up doing musical theater. So
Hmm.
I was in like the Zachary Scott Theater in Austin, and I did this like kind of selective like youth group with them, and did that all through like high school. And I remember this moment in middle school when so it was like we would do a bunch of rehearsals and have smaller shows, and then we would also have like one musical that we did,
Hmm.
and we were and to audition for the parts because it's like the same group throughout the whole year. So
Hmm.
know who's going to be in it, but you have to audition for like the specific roles. They made us like go up there and audition in front of everybody else and then like write notes about each other in the audition.
No.
Like looking back, I'm like, damn, that was like harsh. I remember, yeah,
There's nothing like
yeah.
getting constructive feedback from an 11-year-old.
I know. And also like, what do they know?
Oh my gosh,
We're,
I love it so
um,
much.
yeah. And so like I go up there, I don't even remember what my audition was or like how it went, but like I think in my head at that point I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And I like down and I sneak a peek at the person. We were all sitting on the floor and I see them right. And this was somebody who like went to my elementary school. I was like, oh, we're like chill, we're like good friends.
Hmm.
And he wrote like, I remember he wrote like, she was kind of flat. She should not get like the main part. And
Eh.
like, yeah,
That's
like
incredible. Eh.
yeah,
It was okay.
yeah. And like I don't even have a lot of like childhood memories, but that is
Oh
like
my
that is
gosh,
something that like sat with me.
that is so good.
And and like looking back, I don't know, it's just like interesting the kind of things that like stay with you because that
Yeah.
thing like that kind of thing like come up for me a lot. And like in college, fast forward, I was in this like ensemble and it was a little bit, it was like a recording ensemble. Like we would
Hmm.
all like the focus was like really perfecting your voice to be able to being a session singer. And like
That's
a
cool.
huge focus was like, are you in tune? And it was super like if you were like flat, like you were pointed out. And like I don't know, that was, and I looking back, I'm like, I don't even know if everybody else experienced it the same way, but like me, I was like, oh my God, I'm flat again, I'm flat again. Like
Yes.
haunted by this
Oh my
11-year-old
gosh.
kid. And so I had like I did that one year, my freshman year, and then I got cut from it my second year. And dude, that like I like quit mute. I sold all my equipment. I had like all this stuff. I know.
Oh
It was like not, that was a pity party
no.
move. That
This
was like
no,
not what
this
anyone would
fucking kid
do.
in middle school has no idea.
I know. And I'll preface this by saying, like, I'm not trying to be pity me. I have a reason of sharing this. So, like, you don't have to feel bad.
No, I love it. I
That's not
love
the
it.
goal.
I'm already bought in. This is wonderful.
But, like, I had, like, all this, like, expensive stuff. I was in, like, the production program for a little bit, like, was, like, quitting music, like, all this stuff. And then I'm not exactly sure how, but I kind of, like I was always like writing songs and kind of got
Hmm.
back into it again and was doing it more on my own. And like a friend let me like mooch Ableton off of his, licensing things and, whatever, started getting back into it. And I went to like collaborate with someone a couple years later, like I was still at UTU. But I remember being so nervous about like singing in tune. And I remember I kept like I don't know, I was like overthinking it, of course, like sounding worse. And I like brought it up to him. I was like, damn, I sound like so flat in this. And I remember him turning to me and being like, well, honestly, like that stuff is so easy to fix. It's more about like the presence in your voice and like how you perform it. And it was this like mind-blowing
I
situation of
love
like,
that.
yeah, I'm honestly a lifesaver right there. Like
It's like
um
it's just a good. That's a good artist.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Um, and I don't know. So all of this together has me thinking like there is, I don't know, we're often told that there's this like one thing to be or this one right way to like do something. And especially with like music production, I'm running into that, like learning that right now. I'm like running into like, oh, am I doing it the right way? Because I'm
Hmm.
kind of teaching myself a lot of things. But it's really cool to see that like in reality, like it's more about seeing like your strengths and like how you perform a certain thing, and like that's what's actually important, and not like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah.
I
That's like,
I
there you
I I love that so much. You have no idea.
go.
Because I think it's like I think you're spot on. Especially as artists, and I think especially as musicians, because so much of what we do does need to have some level of technical like capabilities.
Mhm.
But I think so often we can very easily get in that rut of like, no one else does it this way, so obviously I'm doing it wrong. Or
Mhm.
like, no one else's songs sound like this, so this isn't a good song. And like so much about what we do, we like can directly compare to those that we admire. And so we're doing it out of like a place of admiration. But then when you start to think about some of those like cliches that we say, where it's like, yeah, but no one else is you, and that's what people want. There's 12 chords that exist. That's it. Every single artist in the history of music that has ever existed and will ever exist have the same 12 chords, but no
Yeah.
one else is you. And that's
Yeah.
what we want. Like, we want to see you play. Like, we want to hear you sing. We want to see you create this art. But I think
Right.
it's like so easy to lose sight of that and be like, I'm flat. I'm fucking flat again. Again, I'm flat.
Exactly. Gonna quit music,
Yeah,
sell my
I'm done.
shit. I'm done.
Oh my
No,
gosh, I love that.
yeah.
Well, I for one am very glad that you picked it back up. I
Yeah.
think you're doing what you should be doing. And if you're flat, then you're fucking flat, and we'll fix it in post. It's gonna be great.
Sure. I think that's another thing too, of like we see these like final products of things of when they
Hmm.
have fixed it in post, and then we're like comparing ourselves to that, when really there's so much that goes into like
Yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah,
like
a
that, like you said,
hundred
the people we
percent.
admire. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like obviously it's not a secret, but I think social media like absolutely compounds that, and then especially like I think TikTok even
Mhm.
more so than something like Instagram, like TikTok, you see sometimes these videos that people create and you're like how did you do that? And you're like,
Mhm.
well, I will never be able to do that. Um,
Right.
so it's really easy to like, and for me at least, I won't speak for everyone, but like for me, it's very easy to see something like that and be like, oh, I why do I even try to be successful on this? Because like that's the level. But again,
Mhm.
I just have to remind myself, no, like that's that person, and like good for them. That's great, but that's not what I do. And so like I'm gonna do this
Right.
thing over here because that's what I do.
Exactly. Yeah. I honestly struggle with that a little bit, in that like when I'm creating my own, because there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I just wrote this amazing song," but it's like something that they like have had, it's not
Hmm.
like you can lie very easily
Yeah,
on that app and like make a whole story around something, which I think is cool because that can be more compelling than the truth sometimes. So I
yeah,
understand why people do it. But for me, I'm like, I struggle with like, I never want that to be the case, of like somebody to like feel that way
hmm,
about like watching a video of mine. I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know. That's like something else.
No, I completely agree, and I think like, and again, kind of coming back to that idea of like everyone can do everything else, but like you are like no one else is you. I think that's part of that is like I think I know. So I'll speak for my band like that. We really try to capture the idea that like this is what we do is a collective. It's us. It's something that we create, and we just want you to experience it how we experience it.
Mm,
So sometimes because we're so like our setup is so simple, like sometimes if we play a show, we'll just unplug and go into the crowd
that's
because
really
like all of
cool.
our instruments are acoustic and they sound just as good. And so it's like, but it's doing something very simple like that that like changes the entire energy in a room, and now
Yeah.
everyone is focused. And so it's like
Mhm.
so cool. And so again, it's just like, but that's what we do. Like that's what we try. That's what we're after. Yeah, I mean that's just like a very like long-winded way of saying that I agree with everything you just said.
No, and okay, not to divulge, but I am curious, like, did you have to like get used to that? Because that seems very vulnerable to do, to be that like
Absolutely. Yeah.
involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, there's a band that we really, really love, and we kind of have been fortunate enough to become like friendly with them. And we saw them in LA, and they did that for their last song, and we were like, that was the most incredible thing we've ever experienced it. And so the idea was like, we should try that one time. Like,
Mm.
let's just end our set, our last number, we'll go into the audience and we'll do it acoustic, unplugged. And so that was the idea. And then I remember there was one show, and we were on stage, and like the venue was really weird. Everything was like so loud. Like we were watching the opening acts, and we were like, this is brutally loud. It's like uncomfortably loud.
Yeah.
And so we played last. And we kind of were like giving each other the eyes of like, we should just do it our whole set and see what happens. And so we literally got on stage. We like line checked all of our stuff. We started to play our first song, and our singer Wes just stopped it and like halfway through the song, and then he was like, "Hey, do you guys mind if we just come out there?" And the crowd was like, "Huh?" So, but we did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just like unplugged. I like brought my drum down to the audience, and we just like played our whole set just with the crowd around us. And it was, I still think about that show all the time, just because I was like, man, we've never experienced anything like that. And so now, like, any chance we can get where we can play without plugging into anything, we'll do it. Like, it's so much fun. And so we played, So Far Sounds?
Yeah.
So we played a So Far at the LA headquarters, and it was the first time a couple of our friends had ever seen us play in that kind of setting, because they're used to seeing us on stage with like big amplified instruments. And like everyone after that specific So Far set was like, that felt like you guys, like that felt like what you guys are. And we were like, cool, like that's the best feedback that we can get, is because that's what we are. Like that's what we are. It's still so easy to like fall into that trap of comparing ourselves to like, well, we're not the Avett brothers, so like what are we even trying to do? You know what I mean? It's like,
For
well,
sure.
it's not fair.
Yeah. I mean, when in reality, to me, I'm like, anybody can like be loud. That
Yeah.
you have to have a little bit more nuance and like openness to like go and like really like remove the hierarchy of the stage and like
Yes.
go into.
Yeah. Which I think is like what the artist that you collaborated with, that was their point of like, hey, we can fix that stuff, but like I can't fix like your passion. Like that has to come from you. Like, and that's what we're after. Like, let's capture that, and then we can fix the little stuff. I love that. I think that's like probably like the best piece of advice. I would be willing to bet that's a piece of advice that you've held on to
Yeah.
way more than that person probably realizes.
Yeah, honestly, also I'll say his name's Justin Johnson and he produces the
Justin,
national
you're
now.
you're the
Yeah,
one. You
shout
nailed
out
it.
Justin.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing. That was like super. I love everything about that. And that was that was like a perfect 3-act story. Are you kidding me? You had a beginning, you had a middle, and you brought it home. You did it.
Yeah, I didn't think about any of this before. I just showed up. I'm casual, I wasn't stressed about it at
So
all.
casual. I'm so casual. Okay, so you have a show coming up on August 3rd in New York. What was the venue again?
Baby's all right.
Baby's All Right. What part of the city is that in?
It's in Brooklyn, so it's in
Oh,
Williamsburg in
cool. Oh,
Brooklyn.
nice. Very, very cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
And then is it your show? Are you supporting? What's the scenario?
I'm opening for my bestie Rachel Rose, who's like a
Amazing.
folk pop artist who's
I
been here
love
for a
that.
few years.
I
She's
love that.
amazing. She has like one of the best amazing voices I've ever heard in my life.
Very
Speaking
cool.
of,
No, I love it. And this, like you said earlier, this is like going to be like a completely new setup for you. So it'll be equal parts exciting and terrifying, I'm sure.
yeah, it's all new songs that I wrote in the last like 3 months and like produced the backing tracks and stuff for, and like new bandmates that are really awesome. We had our first rehearsal this week and they
Very
were
cool.
amazing.
I
So
love that.
I'm
And then you said you're working on a new album. Do you have any like hopes of when you'll be able to release that into the world?
probably like early 23. I want to
Cool.
do it right, you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, that's even a little ambitious, but
Hmm.
like it's it's written. So now it's just like tying a bow and making it,
I love
juicing
it.
it up,
Do you, for this album that you're working on now, is it something where you want to do as much of it yourself as you can, or do you have like people in mind that you want to bring in and like collaborate with on certain things?
Yeah, so like I worked with a producer on a single and absolutely like loved it, like working with him. And so, but I'm working with a limited budget. So
Absolutely,
I'm trying to
absolutely.
like do as much as I can. And then he's gonna help me like finish it.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, as much as I can for
Yeah.
money's sake as well.
Well, I love that, and
And
I
for
say
the creative freedom.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think it's always like. Again, like not to continue to bring it back to my band, but like we have that same experience where like we've gone into the studio and we've worked with producers and we've spent a bunch of money and then we like produced our own album. And when I listen back, I'm like, I'm really fucking proud of this album that we did ourselves. And like, are there problems with it? Of course there are, but like no one else is going to notice that. Like I notice it, but I think there's something to that of like, I want to do as much of this with like with my hands as I can. And like, I sometimes hold on to those things that we've created ourselves like a little bit tighter than things that we've worked with really brilliant producers on. It just
Right.
like means more, I guess, to me.
Yeah, and like anytime you communicate with something like somebody, something gets lost in translation. Like that's
Yeah.
at least what I was finding. So like this is nice to be like I have these like clear inspirations and ideas in my head that like I can just physically do it rather than having to like, relay that
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then they
yeah.
do it.
I love it. I love it. All right. Yeah, I will definitely plug your show on August 3rd. I wish I could be in New York and see it, but alas, I will not.
Oh.
I'll be there.
Like anytime you're in New York, like hit me up.
100%.
Yeah.
I absolutely will. I love New York. It's my third favorite place, I guess. Anywhere in particular you would want me to point people towards to be able to find you?
I think Instagram because like if anything they want to find like the link, I have like my email list there. I have like texting list. I and then just like I'm gonna be doing some other events that I'm planning later. So
Cool.
if they follow me, like stuff like those are the places that
Cool.
they'll
And
find
then your
it.
Instagram is just your moniker three times, right?
Yeah, Soka Soka Soka.
Soka, Soka,
Yeah.
Soka. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. I love it. You are the best. This was so fun. Thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah.
It was great to chat with you.
Yeah, and you are a very gracious host. I
Oh,
appreciate. Yeah, I felt very comfortable coming to chat with
oh,
you. So
good, good, good. I'm
yeah,
so glad to hear that.
yeah,
Thank you. That means a lot.
you're good at this.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, I will give you the rest of your evening back to you. But thank you so much, and I will. I'll look forward to any new music you put out.
Sounds good. And wait, how can I listen? Wait, I want to listen to your folk music, your folk band.
We just released a there's this venue in LA called Hotel Cafe, and it's kind of like it's like a home base for a lot of LA artists. And we
That
just
sounds fun.
released we did like a 4-track EP that we recorded live there. That's on our Spotify. We're called Moonlight Graham.
Moonlight Graham. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Um but
Sweet.
yeah, that EP I think is like it's our newest songs and it's only 4 tracks and it's live, so you get like a really great idea of like who we are, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, check
Awesome.
that out if you want, I guess.
I will. I do. I want to. I'll take a
I
listen.
love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. You're the best. I'll look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Hell yeah. Okay. Bye, Trey. Have a good
Bye.
one.
Have a good one. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Tell Me Yours. Thank you, Soka, for that. It's just a truly beautiful, wholesome, wonderful story from start to finish. And her story continues this Wednesday. If you're in the New York area, head down to Brooklyn, Williamsburg. Check Soka out at Baby's Alright this Wednesday, August 3rd. I am so bummed that I live about as far away from Brooklyn as you can live in the States. If I was in New York, I would be there. And if you are in New York, you should be there. If you want some extra time with Soka, head over to patreon.com/tellmeyours. You'll get the full unedited interview. We have just such a lovely conversation about art and music and what it means to be an artist. I really, really enjoyed our chat. So head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/tellmeyours. If you want to follow Socha, head over to Instagram. She is just at Socha. I'll throw some links in the show notes of this episode, but give her a follow there. I'm telling you, such an incredible artist. I'm so glad I found Socha's music. And yeah, she's just great. If you want to follow us, Twitter and Instagram, we are at TellMeYoursPod. If you want to follow me on TikTok, I've started to post some stuff from my band on TikTok. We're just at Moonlight Graham Music, so head over to TikTok, give my band a follow. That would be really awesome. And yeah, I think that's all the housekeeping for this week. So until next week, be kind to each other, and we'll talk soon.